Well, hello there, and welcome to Campus United, the campus ministry for the Pacific Mountain Regional Council of the United Church of Canada. My name is Daniel Martin, and I'm the campus ministry animator for PMRC. Campus ministry in our region has a long and storied legacy, dating back to the 1920s. Since then, students from across Canada and all over the world have been connected at the University of Victoria and the University of British Columbia with campus ministers as well as other kind, caring adults and faith communities. After a year-long review, the Pacific Mountain Regional Council is carrying this legacy forward and recommitting to journeying alongside students in the ways of Jesus while away at school and throughout young adulthood. There are over 60 post-secondary schools across our region, and it's likely that there is a college, university, or trade school near your congregation, a place full of students who may be new to the area or to the country, and who are certainly experiencing culture shock as they transition not only to a new place, but back to in-person learning. A place that is full of students who are longing for brave, empathetic, and affirming spaces and struggle to find them amidst the busyness and insanity of university life. Students who are lonely, hungry, and exhausted, longing for the intergenerational community that we are all hardwired for in our souls. And students who like the idea of Jesus, but don't know where to start their exploration. And so we're proud to announce that we're expanding campus ministry all throughout the region to meet students where they're at. And while every campus may not have a chaplain or minister, there's plenty of room to grow in and dream in out-of-the-box ways to connect with students on their faith journeys, whether at Thompson Rivers University, Selkirk College, BCIT, or wherever they're at. But this means we need to hear from you. Where are your congregations connecting with young adults right now? Where are your young people headed off to university, college, or trade school? Do you have stories or encounters with how campus ministry has shaped you that maybe you'd like to share? Head on over to campusunited.ca and find us on Facebook and Instagram under the same name to learn more. And if you're a student, tell us where you're headed to school and what you're thinking about faith. If you're a church leader or minister, pass on our information to your students so we can get connected. Don't worry, we'll be reaching out one-on-one soon as well. Well, thanks for the listen, and may the peace and wonder and joy of Christ be with you all.
Jodie's invited me here to this beautiful part of the UVic campus right near the Multi-Faith Chapel to talk about what's been going on with her and us for the last 6 months?
4 months.
4 months. And so I'm going to ask Jodie first to introduce herself and a bit of background how she ended up working with us here at First Met.
So my name's Jodie, but I usually go by Jo. I am going into my 4th year of writing in French at UVic. Yeah, so I'm part of the co-op program, so I decided to, obviously was looking for co-ops, and I grew up in the church, and so when I saw a co-op at a church, I thought, wow, like this would be great for me. It's what I'm interested in. There are opportunities to do video production and communications and just stuff that I love. So I thought I might as well apply and see what happens.
And how has it been like to work at First Met during a pandemic?
It has been wonderful. I'm sure it's a little different than it would be working during a normal year. But I've been really enjoying it. I still get to go into the office 2-3 days a week, talk to Fiona and Katya and Bruce. I've been able to work on the newsletter and help with the Sunday services. And I think even though it is during a pandemic, I think it's not that different. I think if anything, I got more opportunities to work doing like the Truth and Reconciliation and our Minutes for Right Relations, and being able to have a flexible schedule of doing things online and in person. So it's definitely different, but it was nice working in a place and kind of seeing the behind the scenes of how we are able to provide services and faith formation even during a pandemic.
Mm-hmm. So did you work primarily then with Joan and David in the communications team?
I did, yes. I got to work with Joan and David. We had bi-weekly meetings with them, and they were my main supports, and both wonderful people, and I really got to know them as well.
What made you choose to come to University of Victoria? You've got a great school right there in Guelph.
Yeah, the UVic has a really incredible writing program.
What does that encompass?
Yeah, so the writing program here encompasses 5 genres, and you pick 2. So the 5 genres are poetry, fiction, screenwriting, playwriting, and creative nonfiction. And I ended up in my second year picking to pursue creative nonfiction and screenwriting. There weren't really any creative writing programs in Ontario that really drew me towards it, but here at UVic, there were so many opportunities to work with real-life writers and opportunities to get published with campus resources like the Side of West, UVic's literary journal, as well as the Malahat Review. And so just the ability to be able to write and also meet with other writers has been super wonderful. And I think learning about creative nonfiction has really helped me be able to do things like interview people and get to know people and share other stories. That's where my real passion lies, is the stories of real people living extraordinary lives.
And it's sometimes said as Christians, we are people of the story.
Exactly.
Well, Guelph's loss is our gain.
Yeah.
Thank you for that answer. I was just wondering about, I think that a co-op is a little different than an internship, but in some ways parallel.
Yeah.
When I look back at my own internships, I think about the things that were immediately gratifying and wonderful to do, even if they were challenging and difficult, and some that were just challenging. And I didn't necessarily, it wasn't every day a great day of discovery. Some days there were things that seemed trudging, and I thought probably during the pandemic we had some of those days too. How was it for you that way? What were the highs and lows?
I think definitely the highs was anything helping out with the service. I really enjoyed doing that. I got to make the PowerPoints, so adding the pictures and the words and just kind of helping out with the worship planning meetings where we plan the services, and also getting to create the videos like the one that we did with Jodie and Daily. That was super fun, being able to go into the community and create a video for the congregation.
So that creative element was very important. And was that a surprise that we ended up doing that kind of thing, or is that what you'd hoped?
I think it was a hope and a surprise, because I knew there were going to be some video elements, but I got to do so much video editing, which I absolutely love doing. Like helping out with the Minute for Right Relations video every week, and being able to clip out different parts is just, I enjoyed every minute of it, for sure.
I'm not sure that everybody would know, Jodie, that the final video presented at the retirement of our last chaplain year was one that you had. Your fingerprints were all over that. Yeah. And so for people who may have seen that work before, that was an introduction for us on your CV.
Yeah, and it was really nice to get to do that for Henry. I've known Henry for quite a few years, and to be able to get asked to make that video for his retirement was great. And it kind of also led me to this job, which was also awesome.
Yeah, right. So what about the other side? Things that were, I would think because of the pandemic, there were so many restrictions, I felt.
For sure. I think probably some of the lows were just, again, with the pandemic, sometimes information changes very last minute. And so just making sure that I was on top of emails and making sure I was on top of what the restrictions were. And when things change last minute, it could sometimes be frustrating, but it usually worked out in the end. So, yeah.
How do you say pivot?
Yes, exactly. So it was tough, but yes, it was able to get done, and I learned how to do time management and make sure I kept on top of things. So yeah, it all worked out in the end. But I think the vast majority were highlights.
So thank you for that introduction to how you ended up with us. And I wondered if you mentioned about coming from a faith background, if you could tell us a little bit about that, and how has that been impacted during your time as a co-op student during the pandemic at First Metropolitan United Church?
Yeah, so I grew up, my dad was Presbyterian and my mom was Catholic, but I grew up mostly in the Catholic Church, went to a Catholic school, very kind of insular in a sense, but all of my friends were Christian, all of my teachers were, so I definitely grew up with a Christian bubble, which I really enjoyed. Once I got to university, I joined a few Catholic groups, realized they weren't really for me. They were more on the conservative side, not necessarily very queer-friendly. And as a queer person, I decided to leave the Catholic Church just because it wasn't fitting right for me and my more progressive views. And then my friend Christopher invited me to the service at Multi-Faith on campus called Wine Before Supper. And I fell in love with it. Myself and a few other members of Multi-Faith, who are also UVic students, decided to create the Inclusive Christians Club, which is a club on campus for more progressive Christians that's inclusive of all genders, sexualities, races, abilities, etc. And so I'm currently one of the student leaders for that group, and that has been wonderful. And just being able to find a place that accepts me and has the same views as me. So then being able to go to First Met and find a actual church with the same views has been really nice because the past couple of years I've been kind of church hopping and haven't really found a place that sat right. And so coming to First Met, it definitely felt like this is a place that's like doing great things in the world and is showing like a radical justice and love for people, which is one of the things about Christianity that's so important to me. And yeah, over my time working with Sheila at First Met, I'm currently thinking about going into the discernment of ordained ministry at the United Church. And so kind of just starting the process, thinking about how I'm going to do that. I want to live a life for Jesus in a way that I can do social justice and help other people in a way that's progressive and aligns with my faith. And I think this is definitely the way to do it. So I'm kind of exploring those opportunities, and I definitely I don't think I would have thought about it if I didn't do my co-op at First Met. So I'm very thankful for it.
That is very encouraging to hear, and we know that means that you will stay in touch with us.
Of course.
Jodie has said she'll come back. I appreciate your answer very much, and I love it when people are thinking about how to incorporate their faith and their calling so that their vocation becomes their occupation. Mm-hmm. So, no life like it. Jodie, young adults fill this campus from all over Canada and in fact the world on good days. Different philosophies of life, different backgrounds. We know that this is often a time when the first experiences of tragedy come into people's lives. So, large question, why is faith so important at this particular stage?
I think once you are entering university, you're kind of making your own decisions. I know growing up, a lot of kids will go to church just because their parents go to church and will believe just because their parents believe. And I think it's super important for people in our age to continue with activities that encourage faith formation.
So that's really important, is that you're owning a choice rather than just inheriting something.
Totally. And it's also super important to find other people who own that choice as well, and who live a life of radical compassion and justice, and who make that choice to be in Christian groups. I think that's super important because I do know so many people who, once they get into university, they kind of stop attending church and their faith is a very passive part of their life. And I think, at least for me, having faith as an active part of my life helps me through all of the hard times because I know that there's someone out there watching over me and who cares about me, especially in this age where depression and anxiety are so prevalent. For me, my faith has been a huge, huge help in that. And so I think it's so important that young people continue with their faith, especially in university. And UVic is such a secular campus. There aren't very many Christian groups, so I would highly encourage anyone who is about to attend UVic to check out Inclusive Christians and other Christian groups on campus to continue developing their faith formation. There are several chaplains on campus. So there is a Presbyterian chaplain, Laura, an Anglican chaplain, her name's Ruth, a Lutheran one. We have the United Church chaplain, his name's Greg. He just started here and he is wonderful. I really have enjoyed talking to him so far. These are great people to go and just ask questions. I know if you email them, I know especially Ruth and Greg are always open to going out for a walk and just getting to talk to people. Like, that's what they do. They want to talk to young people about faith, and they're incredible resources to have.
Such a beautiful thing we have now on the campuses. We have open chaplains, open to questions, to honest, heartfelt discussion without trying to steer anybody using any of the old techniques. And that's a wonderful breath of fresh air, as is your time with us, Jodie.
Thank you.
So thank you very much for sharing this with us this morning. I hope that for those of you who didn't go to UVic, as I didn't go, you'll get a chance to come by. We've been wandering around this beautiful campus and looking at some of the totem poles and the waterfalls and the gardens. It's an extraordinary place, right close to home, and is in itself a spiritual resource to be here, isn't it? So, as we conclude this reflection with Jodie, I would say that she will not be forever gone from our midst.
Yeah.
And so we thank you very much
Thank you so
for your
much,
time
yeah.
and for sharing with us this morning.
Thank you.